Hey folks, this is Matt Chat and this is my plywood canoe building adventure. It was supposed to be a cheap 2-week project, but instead it took a couple of months. I ended up building 2 canoes, built a canoe carrying dolly, a boat rack for my truck, and a hanging system for canoe storage. I made tons of mistakes and probably would have given up if it weren't for the money I had already spent. It became an amazing adventure, all for a canoe I wasn't sure I was going to use. Even though I worked on making sure that my lengthwise pieces were identical side to side, they aren't. So I have to recut them. I don't think there's any choice to it. Let me show you what the problem is. Alright, so you can see it here, the difference between the two boards, and there's a similar difference on the other side. They're matching on the ends, so they're exactly aligned, but yet there's this difference. Now what I've done is I've taken that piece and I've brought it here and put it against this piece here, and the one that's uppermost, it fits that curve the best. So cutting the bottom one is necessary, and the top one will have to be cut because you have to have both of them the same. There's just no choice. So on we go and fix this other problem. Hopefully it'll all fit in the end. Well, good morning. So we're now around 2 weeks into the project. Yesterday I spent the day shaping the pieces so that they were once again identical. And some worries about whether or not things would fit, but some dry tests seem to show that things will fit okay. So probably in the end what it'll do is it'll change the outline of the canoe a little bit, but the curves do seem to be all right. So I seem to have made maybe another mistake as well. I gave a second coat of epoxy to all the wood before assembly, figuring it would be better like that with life. It would be easier to paint that way. But what I'm finding here is that the epoxy layer may prevent proper adhesion, particularly in the joints and things. So I'm going to have to go down the road of sanding the materials for the canoe all over again to make sure that they're ready for assembly. So that's going to be today's project, a lot of sanding. So I guess there's no time to waste. Let's get on with it. Here's the paddles I got in the garage sale. 20 bucks for 2. Pretty good deal. I'm very happy with them. They're functional. I'm going to give them a light sanding, get them back in shape. But I think that they'll work way better than the other one I did, which was too short. And the other one's about this high. So I think this will be a good deal and way less work than making some myself. As I'm getting closer to assembly time, I've decided to use this area as the place where the boat is going to get put together. It's the widest and longest clear area I've got in the garage. And I've also decided that as I sand my pieces for the final time, I'm going to put them over here on this side and line them up against the wall in order that I'm going to need them as they come out. So it's just more sanding now. Well, my son came over with his girlfriend and they helped me duct tape the boat together. And once we had it duct taped, we flipped it over and we put a stick in the middle and tried to open it up, but the whole thing fell apart. There was just too much stress. Possibly one of the problems is that the support beams I put in were too wide, so that they prevent the wood from turning. Perhaps the stresses are too high. I don't know. I can't explain, because I have to go fairly wide. It's almost 3 feet according to the original measurement. We even cut down that measurement by about 3 or 4 inches to try to get it to fit, but still the thing fell apart. So I eventually decided there's no point arguing against it. I have to do the stitch method on this boat. The difference is I'm going to do it very sparingly. I've learned how to do it from the first one, so I'm going to do it about one stitch about every foot and a half, maybe less even, depending where it is. But otherwise it's impossible. The tape just comes right off. As soon as you put some pressure on this thing, the tape just lets go. I have no idea how other people have done it. We really put some tape in there. Perhaps we could have put more tape, but there was a lot of tape. This stress was beyond any tape, in my opinion. Just a lot of stress on the wood. Perhaps the new curves that I did on the boat are stronger and make things harder to connect. Although they do seem to fit fairly well. There are a few gaps here and there, but generally speaking, they do fit well together. So, stitching it is. Now I've started. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's an example of one I've done. As you can see, it's just a very small thing. I've used a very small drill bit. I'll show you that there. Sorry about blocking the camera there. Okay, so I've used a very small drill bit. I don't know if you can, maybe if I put that, there we go. It's quite as small a drill bit as I could use to thread the wire through, so it leaves the lightest imprint on the wood. I'll be able to fill that easily with the silicone putty, not silicone putty, but the epoxy putty, and you can see if you look along the line, it holds the line very well, which the tape did not do. In fact, let's turn around and look at the tape here, and let me pull that back. Whoops, let me pull this back a bit, and you can see good examples here of how the tape, I can slide my finger right underneath here, see, and there's quite the gap here. No good at all. It has to be tighter than that. So let me show you how I'm doing this here. So I'm just about ready to do one here. I've actually drilled the hole on the bottom here, but as you can see, the wood is sticking down over the lip here. So all I'm doing is I'm using a little screwdriver and just go in and catch that lip. Try not to be too aggressive about it. And get it up. There we go. Just get it to line up. And then I bring in my drill. In. Get myself one of my pre-cut little pieces of wire, and to install it I've decided, I've sort of pre-bended it a little bit, but to install it I've decided to put them inside the curve inside the boat. When I first did the original one, I put all the sharp piece, the parts you tighten on the inside so you wouldn't catch on it on the outside, but I've realized I just don't want those there, because the inside is where I'm going to do the first filleting with the epoxy fillets. So I want to make sure that there's nothing bothering me here, nothing to catch on. So I just go inside to install that. Okay, so we've got it in position. Thread one end in, bend the wire, get it the other end in, push it in as best as you can, so that there's the least amount left. We've got the position, and now back on the outside, you take it and you give it a little bit of a turn, a twist there with your hand. Pretty bad show on the camera like that, because you want a fairly wide angle on that, 45-degree angle with your wires, because otherwise what you risk is that the whole thing wraps around one wire. You want it to twist, not to have one wire wrap around, because when you turn it with the pliers, you're twisting that wire and it'll just break. In 2 or 3 revolutions, it'll break right off. And the work you've done is for nothing. Then you take your cutters and you snap it off, and we're done. That's going to be it for this part of my canoe building adventures. I want to thank you for joining in, and I want to remind you not to forget to subscribe to my channel. Hopefully we'll find a lot of progress in the next episode. See you soon.